the UN is serving as host to an unproductive and ill-timed conference on the so-called two-state solution in New York City. This is a publicity stunt that comes in the delicate diplomatic efforts to end the conflict in Gaza. Far from promoting peace, the conference will prolong the war, will embolden Hamas, and reward its obstruction and undermine real-world efforts to achieve real peace. As Secretary Rubio has made clear, this effort is a slap in the face to the victims of October 7th and a reward for terrorism. It keeps hostages trapped in tunnels. The United States will not participate in this insult, but will continue to lead real-world efforts to end the fighting and deliver a permanent peace. Our focus remains on serious diplomacy, not stage-managed conferences designed to manufacture the appearance of relevance. Also, the United States welcomes the ceasefire declaration announced yesterday between Cambodia and Thailand. We commend both governments for taking this important step to ease tensions along the border. President Trump and Secretary Rubio spoke with their Cambodian and Thai counterparts on July 26th to underscore the need for an immediate cessation of the violence. Building on those conversations, the United States, working in close coordination with the government of Malaysia, co-organized the ceasefire talks in Kuala Lumpur on July 28th.
President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have issued seemingly contradictory statements on the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Is there a rift emerging between the two leaders, and how is this impacting peace efforts, if at all?
Well, of course, what I won't comment on is the nature of a relationship. What we've seen between the president and the prime minister has been a very good relationship. Certainly, this is a fluid, dynamic situation. That's an understatement when it comes to what's happening in Gaza, especially with the new efforts regarding the humanitarian assistance. Certainly the president's point of view regarding what we need to do and continue to do, which we have been doing, which is facilitating the food assistance through GHF, but also, of course, the financial investment and the president's work and this government's work and Secretary Rubio's work to stop the carnage, to have a ceasefire, to get the hostages released, and to have the killing stopped. I think that when we look at the nature of remarks by the president, there's one thing that's clear that everyone can agree on, is that it is his humanitarian nature to focus on diplomatic solutions, but he is a realist and he'll go and do what he needs to realize what his goals are, which is peace and a ceasefire. And also, I think the recognition that no one has denied, we have not denied it in this room, that the humanitarian assistance to this point has not been enough. My argument is that it would never be enough in that obscene, unnatural environment. And so we're proceeding in that regard, and of course with President Trump's leadership, as he noted yesterday, to do even more to assist when it comes to food and other aid. So that's, I think, without getting ahead of the president, as we'll learn more about what his plans are coming up. We know the secretary, of course, has led the way in this regard as well, but the focus remains certainly the humanitarian aid, and our focus remains also on a ceasefire and ending that carnage.
First one is about the United Nations conference that is taking place in New York. You just read the statement. We heard the president. We all agree that Hamas attacked Israel October 7th. But there were like 193 nations attending. So my question, led by the French and the Saudis, that struck a deal also with the United States in a couple of months ago. So we understand there's going to be, hopefully, the president is only 6 months in his mandate with the secretary, and they're fighting for a peace deal. But the question is how the State Department envision the future for the Palestinian and the Palestinian state.
Yes.
Is there going to be a Palestinian state, or they're pushing for one state
first of all,
solution?
the president has noted, as has Secretary Rubio, that at least they are envisioning a future, which is not something that most people can say. All of their work has led to getting to a point where we can discuss and envision that future and then act on that. Regardless of the conflict that has been worked on, whether it's Russia, Ukraine, the Gaza Strip, or anywhere else, you can't really begin to contemplate what's next until people stop killing each other. We are still at that point. We have not, because of Hamas's recalcitrance and refusal to lay down its arms, refusal to release the hostages, we're not at a point where we're looking at, what is next. We know things will have to be rebuilt. The president has made remarks in that regard. But from the beginning, calling for new ideas and a new way forward so that it's not just a repeat of what we've experienced for generations now.
And if I can do a follow-up about the Gaza.
Foundation is distributing specifically, this was last week's briefing, specifically the high nutrient food that is needed.
Yes, I know it's come up before as well. So,
yeah,
yes.
And you mentioned that you would take that back to get more details on the distribution. I did get a line from this department in response to my questions last week, and the State Department spokesperson had said the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation Award remains subject to strict requirements, vetting, and oversight mechanisms like all department awards. And then they also deferred to GHF on the exact food items that are being distributed.
Sure.
There's been a lot that's happened since you were actually last at the podium. As you know, there's been the news out of France, and also now with the UK Prime Minister saying that the UK may well recognise a Palestinian state in September at UN Week if certain conditions are not met by Israel. And then, of course, there's been wall-to-wall coverage on images of starving children, photographic evidence of that. From our colleagues covering the story on the ground in Gaza. So I just wondered whether the vetting process and the strict requirements in this department is now having to take into account, obviously, all of this evidence, this photograph evidence, and is this giving the department some pause on these funds that are meant to go out the door to this organization?
First of all, some of you may have seen a remark from Anna Kelly from the White House about the president's stance and what his plans are. She said President Trump wants to alleviate the suffering for the people of Gaza because he has a humanitarian heart. He announced a new aid plan today to help Gazans obtain crucial access to food. Details are forthcoming. What I will note about what's happening on the ground, of course, is what our focus is on, which is getting more aid in, which is getting a ceasefire, which has not been accomplished because Hamas refuses to do so. From the beginning, they have been the problem about why this continues to be an issue. We know that, of course, more food aid will be going in, considerably more. And for those, as we care about the nature of nutrition and the value of that, we'll have those details for you. And GHF can be reached, many of you have reached out to them, to ask them for those details. We at the State Department, the Secretary and the President of the United States, are focusing on saving lives, dealing with individuals who can stop what they're doing to create peace. And of course, as you know, the President has been frustrated on a couple of fronts regarding the killing of civilians, the using of civilians, the nature of what's happening at too many conflicts around the world. And that's what he's focused on. But it's a good issue to have, if there is a silver lining, about the fact that more food, more nutrition, more access is being created. And that's what we're doing in the meantime, while still trying to stop a war that makes that zone almost impossible. Nadia.
Thank you, Tammy. I have two questions. An Israeli settler called Yanon Levy, he shot and killed a Palestinian peace activist. He's a father of three. His name is Aoud al-Hadhalin in the West Bank. This settler was identified by the previous administration as an extremist, and he was under sanction, both by the EU and the US. The Trump administration has lifted the sanction on him. You often say you have the same values with the Israelis. How can you make sure that this guy is accountable when he killed a civilian, especially a peace activist?
Well, of course, I think it needs to be said. It shouldn't have to be said, but we decry the loss of life everywhere. That has been the hallmark of the work that this administration is doing. It is at the top of mind for Secretary Rubio and all of us who work here at the State Department for a reason, because we care about what happens with other people. Here, certainly we care about, it is American first framework, but that value is about peace around the world as well, which also helps us. I would say also that we, as you know, we don't comment on investigations that belong to another government. Israel has investigations that it's implementing regarding situations of this sort. I don't know the end result of what that's going to be, nor will I comment or speculate on what should happen. What we do know, and I don't think we should have to, we have a status here, a posture, where all of this matters to us, to the point where the president's last and only, this second term, but his last effort is to make these things better and to save people's lives. So certainly Gaza, a war zone. We're doing our best to make a difference there, and we will wait for the result of an investigation before we have any comment.
Sure, this guy in the West Bank is not in Gaza.
Well, but with the West Bank and Gaza, obviously, the nature of conflicts and what we've been working on, but I appreciate that, yes, of course. It's the same, I think, it's the same argument. We see this in the West Bank. We know when there's violence in general. We saw something unfold in New York City as well with a shooting in New York City yesterday. These things touch all of us. With the hero there being a Bangladeshi immigrant, a cop for 3 years, dies defending New Yorkers. It is the American story, and it's something that we all work to help try to make a difference on. All right.
The second question is, two Israeli human rights organizations found that they concluded that Israeli practice in Gaza has aspects of genocide. The Trump administration has put sanctions on UN officials who concluded the same. So are you going to sanction this human rights organization, or are you going to change your position?
Well, I appreciate that, Nadia, but of course, you know, I'm not going to speculate or say what actions will be. I'm not going to comment on outrageous allegations, effectively, which have also been disputed. But I will, again, you know, I won't preview things or guess or speculate about actions in any regard. All right. Yes.
Can I just ask you about the trucks that are getting into Gaza? Over the weekend, there was an uptick, I think, over 100 trucks that got in on Sunday. But at times during this crisis, there have been upwards of 300 trucks delivering humanitarian aid into Gaza. What is the number of trucks that this administration wants to see Israel allow into Gaza on a daily basis?
Well, I won't discuss, of course, details with you or the content of conversations or even a specific like that. What I do know is that there is this overarching work that we've done to make sure as much can get in as possible. At the same time, we do know that the UN had noted that they were not moving material in because of the violence. We know it's a war zone. I mean, that has been the overriding issue, and how to make it safe to get food through to those who need it versus into the hands of those who are causing the destruction and using it and weaponizing it. So we don't, I'm not going to speak to you about specifics or if that conversation has been had. We know, of course, it's in everyone's interest to help stop the kind of environment in general that's happening in the Gaza Strip. It's again, monstrous and abnormal, and all of us have an interest in stopping it.
And DHS contracts expire at the end of August. Is this administration pushing for those contracts to be renewed?
I won't speak on the details of contracts or agreements or if that's accurate or if it's not. Yes.
Thank you so much. Two very quick questions. Secretary Rubio, for the past several months, has been wearing two hats, both leader of the...
Four hats.
Many hats. But specifically, Department of State and NSC. He has shrunken down the NSC and called it right-sizing. Mm-hmm. And my question is, are these two roles being sort of merged together into the same official, or are they being fulfilled in two separate capacities?
Well, I can't speak to the decision-making about the nature of what he's doing as the NSA. I'm here with the State Department. Of course, he is the Secretary of State. What I can tell you is when I've been on various trips where the NSA, the National Security Advisor, and the Secretary have been there together, it's the same kind of work. It's working together seamlessly. Of course, there'll a great deal of time of overlap regarding the nature of what's happening in the world. So it seems and it appears to be working out smoothly and effectively.
Thank you, Tammy. And I must admit, I feel a little bit vulnerable and closer to the floor here.
Wow.
I was always shielded by the front row.
Well, see how you're thinking now, but you trust us, you're fine without the Italian rule about never having your back into an open space.
Very quick question. You know, IPC said today what's going on in Gaza is famine. And the reason they didn't classify it as such is because They need the actual data, and they have to be in Gaza to collect that data, which Israel prevent them. So my two questions.
Well, let me just say, as you know I might, is that there is someone preventing people from getting into Gaza, and that's Hamas. Okay. Hamas is preventing everyone from being able to get in there, whether it is reporters, whether it's food deliveries, or those who might need to assess the nature of what's happening on the ground. People are afraid of a terrorist group, the masterminds of October 7th, which slaughtered babies up to the elderly, when they're living, dismembering them, putting a baby into a microwave, murdering women as they're raping them. That set of people are running the Gaza Strip. So it's understandable why people are concerned and can't get in. It is not the Israelis who have been defending themselves in this framework and who are ready to sign a ceasefire deal and have been ready for weeks to do so.
Well, in fact, the Israelis are preventing everybody. They control the area, but that's another issue. My question to you: does this add the kind of urgency that would allow more trucks? To follow up on Kylie's point, more trucks, and to the level that it was before. It was something like 400, 500 trucks, especially during the ceasefire. And second, would the U.S. call on Israel to allow these groups to go in and give them, the facilities they need to report actually and factually?
We've had progress here from the beginning of this conversation, and with the catastrophe of October 7th and what has unfolded since then. We've discussed all the time about what we need, and we've had progress. We've had, again, close now, I think, to 100 million meals distributed by GHF. We have had more trucks now moving into the area. Israel making accommodation to be able to try to allow that to happen without people being in danger. So we've seen this progress being made. When it comes to the number of trucks, I would caution that it's not an issue of numbers, but clearly the posture of the President, of the Secretary of State, is that all of this has to stop and everything has to get to whomever it needs it. That may end up being a certain number of trucks. It may be a certain other kind of effort, new ideas. So it's not. I would just ask that we focus on what we've been focusing on here, which is having this violence end so that we can do a wholesale reformation of that area, a stopping of the violence, and a wholesale view of that a future really can exist. Yes, ultimately, it's going to be the best scenario. Everyone can go into Gaza and help. The president clearly will have ideas. The partners in that area, whether it be Egypt or Qatar and others, Jordan, with their airdrops, everyone has an interest in the resolution of this. And inevitably, of course, it'll result in everyone getting what they need.
Taking place in Gaza?
Well, I think President Rubio's statement and my statement that I issued regarding the conference, the two-state solution, the fact of the matter is his remarks also when President Macron of France also did something similar in this regard, that this is a slap in the face to the victims of October 7th, that it rewards Hamas, and it harms the ability to stop this framework from, it allows it to continue. It gives one group hope, and that's Hamas. It is a rewarding of that kind of behavior, that if you wait long enough, if you don't cooperate, if in any other normal environment where someone was so utterly defeated, they would surrender. In this case, that just does not occur. And part of it is because of perhaps the hope that they receive on how long the suffering lasts, how much that pushes the world to acquiesce to their arguments. And that is, there's one group that benefits from the images and the reality of the horribleness, and that's Hamas. And so there's a reason why they don't cooperate and stop. And this adds one more thing onto it that adds into their apparent posture that this is a winning thing to do. Clearly, we are of the opposite mind, and that I think we can say in general about that issue.
President Trump said he didn't mind the UK Prime Minister taking a position on statehood. Is that, can you explain what the difference is there?
Well, obviously, I'm not going to speculate on the president's reasoning. But I do know that none of us are in the business of telling people not to speak their mind. At the same time, I'm a big believer, as I know the Secretary is and the President is, and we showed this, I think, last November, is that persuading people, explaining your position, why it matters, how it impacts what we all want to achieve, is something that we must do, and that it's the way to persuade people, to change people's minds. So it doesn't surprise me that that is what he said. But of course, we also know, as I described, the nature of our situation here, about what that does in our efforts to stop the carnage. Yes.
Thanks so much, Tammy.